I stood at the airport check-in counter watching my son walk away with my grandchildren. My suitcase sat at my feet, $40,000 spent, and no ticket in my hand. "I forgot to buy yours, Dad," Caleb had just said, his eyes avoiding mine. "The flight's full anyway. Just go home." My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might crack my ribs. Behind me, travelers rushed past with their rolling bags and coffee cups, living their normal lives while mine shattered into 1,000 pieces right there on that polished airport floor. How did I get here? How did the father who sacrificed everything become the man his own family planned to leave behind? Let me back up. My name is Benedict Harrow. I'm 61 years old, and up until yesterday morning, I thought I knew what family meant. Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family, enjoy the story. I grew up without a father. He walked out when I was 10, leaving my mother to raise 2 kids on a seamstress's salary. I watched her fingers bleed from pushing needles through thick fabric night after night. I made myself a promise back then, when I had a family they'd never feel abandoned like I did. So when my son Caleb was born, I became the father I never had. Every baseball glove he wanted, I worked overtime to buy. Every school trip, I made sure he could go. College? I covered what the scholarships didn't touch. When he married Serena, I handed them $50,000 for their first house down payment. When their car died, I dipped into my retirement fund to get them a new one. I told myself this was love. This was what fathers did. But somewhere along the way the thank yous stopped coming. My help stopped being appreciated. It became expected. Required. Like I was an ATM machine instead of a human being. 5 years ago my wife Miranda died. Cancer took her in 8 months. She was the one who used to tell me, "Benedict, you're spoiling that boy." She was the laughter in our house, the warmth in our family photos. When she died, the silence nearly killed me too. The only thing that kept me going was Caleb and his family. My 2 grandchildren. The thought that maybe I still mattered to someone. That's when I found the postcard. I was cleaning out the garage one Saturday, sorting through boxes Miranda and I had packed away years ago. Tucked between old photo albums was a postcard from our honeymoon. Hawaii. Palm trees and turquoise water so bright it didn't look real. On the back, in her handwriting, it said, "One day we'll bring the whole family here." I sat on that dusty garage floor and cried. Not the quiet kind of crying. The kind that shakes your whole body because you realize your wife had dreams she never got to see come true. But I could make it happen. I could give my family this one perfect memory. For 18 months I saved every penny. I sold my old tools. Canceled my fishing trips. Put off fixing my leaking roof. I researched resorts, booked a villa in Maui big enough for all of us, arranged first-class flights, planned snorkeling trips and luau's and spa treatments for Serena. By the time I finished booking everything, I'd spent just under $40,000. But I wasn't thinking about the money. I was thinking about my grandkids running on the beach. Serena finally smiling at me with real warmth instead of that cold politeness she always gave me. Caleb putting his arm around me and saying, "Dad, you really came through. Thank you." That vision kept me alive through every long empty night in my house. I should have seen the warning signs. Serena had always kept me at arm's length. At family dinners, when I'd tell stories about my construction days, she'd roll her eyes or excuse herself to check her phone. Once, I overheard her talking to a friend. "If your father-in-law thinks he can tag along everywhere, he's delusional. He's just old energy." Old energy. Like I was some expired product taking up space in their lives. When I mentioned it to Caleb, he laughed it off. "Dad, she didn't mean it like that." She stressed. "Don't take everything so personally." But he never defended me. Not once. Still, I held on to Hawaii. I thought once they saw what I'd done for them, everything would change. They'd finally see how much I loved them. The morning of the trip, I couldn't sleep. I was up at 4, my suitcase packed and ready by the door. I checked my documents 3 times. Passport, itinerary, confirmations. Everything perfect. At the airport, I spotted them near the check-in counter. I raised my hand to wave, expecting smiles, maybe a hug from my grandkids. Serena gave me a tight nod. Caleb's smile didn't reach his eyes. Something felt wrong, but I pushed the feeling down. I was being paranoid. This was our family trip. Our legacy vacation. At check-in, Caleb handled all the documents. He had a thick folder with everyone's tickets and passports. I stood back, letting him take care of it. He was always better at organizing these things. The attendant scanned their tickets one by one. Caleb's. Serena's. Both kids. Bags tagged, boarding passes printed. Everything smooth. Then she looked at me. "Sir, your ticket?" I turned to Caleb. He was staring at the counter, his jaw tight. "Caleb," I said. Where's my ticket? The silence stretched for what felt like an hour. Dad. His voice came out flat, rehearsed. Like he'd practiced this moment. I forgot to buy yours. The flight's completely full. There's nothing we can do. You should just go home. The airport noise faded to a dull roar in my ears. I couldn't have heard him right. What do you mean you forgot? My voice cracked. I paid for this whole trip. I planned everything. Serena stepped forward, her face a mask of fake sympathy. Benedict, these things happen. It's unfortunate, but you'll understand. We'll call you when we land. The kids are excited to go. I looked at my grandchildren. They weren't even looking at me. They were already scanning their surroundings for the gate, ready to board, ready to leave. Caleb, this is a mistake. There has to be. Dad. His voice was sharp now. We need to go. We'll miss our flight. And then they walked away. My son. My daughter-in-law. My grandchildren. The family I'd given everything to. They grabbed their carry-ons, took their boarding passes, and walked towards security without looking back. I stood there with my suitcase, watching them disappear into the crowd. It wasn't a mistake. The way Serena avoided my eyes. The way Caleb's explanation came out too smooth, too prepared. The way neither of them seemed surprised or upset. They had planned this from the beginning. They never intended for me to get on that plane. I don't remember driving home. One minute I was standing at that airport counter, the next I was pulling into my driveway with no memory of the road in between. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely turn the key in the door. The suitcase rolled behind me, making this sad little clicking sound on the walkway. That sound is burned into my brain now. Click, click, click. The soundtrack to my humiliation. Inside the house was dark. I didn't bother turning on lights. I just walked to my chair, the one Miranda used to complain was too worn out to keep, and I sat down. $40,000. 18 months of planning. Years of sacrifice before that. But it wasn't about the money. Money you can earn back. What I'd lost was something else entirely. I pulled out my phone and opened the itinerary I'd saved. First day, arrival and sunset dinner on the beach. Second day, snorkeling at Malakini Crater. Third day, the luau I'd specifically chosen because it had activities for the kids. Fourth day, spa day for Serena while Caleb and I took the kids on a helicopter tour. I'd planned every detail thinking about their happiness, their comfort, their memories, and they'd erased me from all of it like I was a typo they needed to correct. The worst part? I kept replaying Caleb's face, looking for surprise, for guilt, for anything that said this hadn't been intentional. But there was nothing. Just that rehearsed explanation and cold eyes. My son had looked at me the way you'd look at a stranger asking for directions. Polite but distant. Ready to walk away. I sat in that chair until the sun came up. Didn't eat. Didn't sleep. Just stared at the postcard Miranda and I had bought on our honeymoon, the one that started this whole nightmare. One day we'll bring the whole family here. Well, they'd gone to Hawaii. Just not with me. Around 6 in the morning my phone buzzed. For one stupid second my heart jumped. Maybe Caleb had realized what he'd done. Maybe he was calling to apologize, to fix this. I grabbed the phone. It was a text from Serena. A photo. Her and the kids on the plane holding tropical drinks with little umbrellas. The caption read, "Taking off. Hawaii, here we come." Not a single mention of me. Not even a wish you were here, out of basic human decency. I stared at that photo until my vision blurred. Then I threw my phone across the room. It hit the wall and clattered to the floor. That's when I finally cried. Not the shocked tears from last night. These were different. Deeper. The kind of crying that comes from somewhere in your chest where you keep all the things you don't want to admit to yourself. I cried because I'd spent my entire adult life trying to be the father I never had, and somehow I'd raised a son who could do this to me. I cried because Miranda wasn't here to tell me what to do, to soften the edges of this pain. I cried because my grandchildren were going to grow up thinking it was normal to treat people this way. But mostly I cried because I finally understood the truth. I had taught them to treat me like this. Every time I'd handed over money without question, every time I'd ignored Serena's disrespect, every time Caleb took my help for granted and I said nothing, I was teaching them that I had no value beyond what I could provide. I was teaching them I was disposable. The sun rose higher. My neighbors started their morning routines. I could hear Mr. Peterson starting his lawn mower next door. Life was going on like normal for everyone else while mine had collapsed. I picked up my phone from where it had landed. The screen was cracked but still working. I pulled up my bank account and looked at the numbers. After paying for the trip, my retirement savings had taken a serious hit. I'd have to be careful now. Budget differently. Maybe pick up some part-time consulting work, though at 61, not many people were lining up to hire old contractors. Old energy. Serena's words echoed in my head. I thought about calling Caleb, demanding an explanation, asking him how he could do this to his own father. But what would be the point? He'd made his choice. They all had. Instead, I made myself breakfast. Not because I was hungry, I felt sick to my stomach, but because I needed to do something normal. Something that proved I was still a functioning human being. I was washing my plate when my phone rang. My heart jumped again. I hated that it did. Hated that even after everything, part of me still hoped. But it wasn't Caleb. It was my old friend Robert, a guy I'd worked construction with for 20 years before he retired to Arizona. Benedict, how's Hawaii? You should be on a beach right now, not answering your phone. I couldn't speak for a moment. Then it all came spilling out. Everything. The airport, the missing ticket, the photo Serena had sent. Robert listened without interrupting, which I appreciated because I don't think I could have stopped talking even if I wanted to. When I finished, there was a long silence. Jesus, Benedict, Robert finally said. I don't even know what to say. That's cold. Really cold. I don't know what to do, I admitted. I keep thinking I should call him, but what's the point? The point is he's your son and he needs to hear how messed up this is. You can't just let this go. But could I call him? Did I even want to? We talked for another hour. Robert suggested I come visit him in Arizona, get away for a while. I thanked him but said no. Running away wasn't going to fix this. After we hung up, I sat at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee going cold in front of me. The house felt bigger and emptier than it ever had, even after Miranda died. At least when she passed, I'd had Caleb. I'd had the belief that family was still there, still solid, still worth fighting for. Now I had nothing. No, that wasn't quite true. For the first time in decades, I had something I hadn't had in a long time. I had a choice. I could keep being the father who fixed everything, who showed up no matter how badly they treated me, who proved through endless sacrifice that love meant erasing yourself for other people. Or I could do something different. I pulled out a notebook, one of Miranda's old ones with flowers on the cover, and I started writing. Not a letter to Caleb. Not an angry rant. A list. Every time I'd given them money. Every time I'd bitten my tongue when Serena was disrespectful. Every time Caleb had asked for help but never called just to talk. Every holiday where I'd been an afterthought. Every moment I'd swallowed my hurt and told myself it was fine, they were just busy, they still loved me. The list went on for pages. By the time I finished, my hand was cramping and the sun was setting. I'd lost an entire day to this exercise, but something had shifted inside me. I wasn't just hurt anymore. I was angry. Not the explosive, destructive kind of anger. The cold, clear kind. The kind that helps you see things as they really are instead of how you wish they were. My phone buzzed again. Another text, this time from Caleb. Made it to the resort. It's amazing. Kids love it. No, sorry you're not here. No acknowledgement of what they'd done. Just a casual update, like I was a distant acquaintance who'd asked about their trip. I stared at that message for a long time. Then I did something I'd never done before. I didn't respond. For the first time in my life, I didn't rush to make things comfortable for him. Didn't send back a cheerful, glad you're having fun. Didn't pretend everything was okay. I just let his message sit there. Unread. Unanswered. And I went to bed. I woke up the next morning to the sound of my phone exploding. Not literally, but it might as well have been. Buzzing, ringing, dinging, a constant stream of noise that yanked me out of the first real sleep I'd had in 2 days. I grabbed it off my nightstand, squinting at the bright screen in my dark bedroom. 72 missed calls. All from Caleb. My heart stopped. 72 calls. Something was seriously wrong. Car accident. One of the kids hurt. Medical emergency. My mind went through every horrible possibility in half a second. I fumbled to unlock my phone, my hands still clumsy with sleep. The voicemail started autoplaying. Dad, call me back. It's important. That was the first one. Come. Almost casual. Dad, seriously, pick up. We need to talk to you. Second one. A little more urgent. Dad, where are you? Why aren't you answering? Third one. Frustrated now. I skipped ahead. Dad, please. Something's happened. We need your help. Now we were getting somewhere. Caleb's voice was higher, stressed. I could hear Serena in the background saying something I couldn't make out. I kept skipping through. Dad, they won't let us leave. You need to call me back right now. This is serious. We're stuck at the airport and they're saying, Dad, please just answer your phone. Fine. You know what? This is really mature, Dad. We're in trouble and you're playing games. Just call me back. I listened to that last one twice. The anger in his voice. The entitlement. Like I was the one who'd done something wrong by not being available the second he needed me. The same son who'd left me stranded at an airport was now furious that I wasn't jumping to fix his problem. I sat on the edge of my bed, phone in hand, and I started laughing. Not a happy laugh. The kind that bubbles up when something is so absurd your brain can't process it any other way. They needed me. After everything they'd done, after planning to exclude me from a trip I'd paid for, after walking away without looking back, now they needed me. I checked the timestamps on the calls. They'd started around 6 p.m. Hawaii time yesterday. That would have been their second day there. The snorkeling day according to my itinerary. The calls had continued through the night, getting more frantic with each one. The most recent was 20 minutes ago. I should call back. That was my first instinct, decades of being the fixer kicking in. Something was wrong. They needed help. I was the father. The grandfather. That's what you did. But then I remembered standing at that airport. I remembered Serena's fake sympathy. I remembered my grandchildren not even looking at me. I remembered spending the last 2 days crying alone in my house while they sent me photos of tropical drinks. I set my phone down on my nightstand face down and went to make coffee. The phone kept ringing. I ignored it. I made eggs and toast. The phone rang. I took a shower. The phone rang. I got dressed, watered my plants, checked my mail. The phone didn't stop. Each ring felt like a tiny victory. For once, they needed me more than I needed to make them happy. Around noon, my phone buzzed with a text. Then another. Then 5 more in rapid succession. I finally picked it up and read them. Caleb, Dad, this isn't funny. Caleb, we're in serious trouble. Caleb, Serena's being held by customs. Caleb, they won't release her without a financial guarantee. Caleb, we need you to wire money. Now. Then from a number I didn't recognize, probably Serena's. Benedict, I know you're angry, but this is serious. They're saying I tried to bring in undeclared items. It's a misunderstanding, but they want $15,000 as a guarantee. Please help us. I read that message 3 times. $15,000. After I'd already spent $40,000. After they'd deliberately left me behind. Another text from Caleb. Dad, I'm begging you. They're threatening to detain her. We have the kids here and they're scared. Please just answer. I sat down at my kitchen table and really looked at these messages. Studied them like I used to study blueprints back in my construction days. Not once did anyone say, I'm sorry. Not once did anyone acknowledge what they'd done to me. Even now, in their crisis, it was all about what I could do for them. The phone rang again. Gil. This time I answered. Dad. Thank God. Where have you? What happened? I said. My voice came out flat. Cool. I barely recognized it as my own. It's Serena. She bought some jewelry at a market, didn't realize she needed to declare it. Now customs is saying it's worth way more than she thought and they want a guarantee before they'll let her go. Dad, they're talking about pressing charges. We need $15,000 wired today or they might actually detain her. The kids are terrified. I'm terrified. Please, you have to help us. I let the silence stretch out. I could hear Caleb breathing hard on the other end, waiting for me to say I'd fix it. That's unfortunate, I finally said. What? Dad, did you hear me? They might arrest her. I heard you. I said it's unfortunate. Dad, this isn't the time for, we need your help. Now. Like I needed help at the airport 2 days ago? The silence that followed was deafening. Dad, look, I know you're upset about that, but this is different. This is serious. We can talk about the ticket thing later, but right now. The ticket thing? My voice rose for the first time. The ticket thing? You mean when you deliberately left your father stranded at an airport after he spent $40,000 on a vacation for your family? It wasn't, Dad, it was a mistake we can explain. Don't lie to me, Caleb. Not now. You planned it. Both of you. You never intended for me to get on that plane. More silence. Then quietly, Dad, please. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. But Serena is in trouble and I don't know what to do. You're the only one who can help us. No, I said. What? No. I'm not helping you. Dad, you can't be serious. They might arrest her. Our kids are here watching this happen. Then maybe you should have thought about that before you treated me like garbage. Maybe you should have thought about consequences before you took my money and my love and threw them back in my face. This is different. This is. It's always different when you need something, isn't it? When you needed $50,000 for your house, that was an emergency. When your car broke down, that was an emergency. Every time you call, it's an emergency and I'm supposed to drop everything and fix it. But when I needed my own son to treat me with basic respect, that wasn't important. Dad, please? I'm done, Caleb. I'm done being your safety net. I'm done teaching you that you can treat people badly and still expect them to save you. You're a grown man with a family. Figure it out yourself. You're going to let her get arrested? Your own daughter-in-law? The daughter-in-law who called me old energy, who rolled her eyes at my stories, who planned to exclude me from a family trip. She's your wife, I said. Your problem, not mine. I can't believe you're doing this. After everything After everything you've what? After everything you've taken from me? You're right. That is hard to believe. I hung up. My hands were shaking, but not from fear or sadness this time. From something else. Something that felt like strength. The phone started ringing again immediately. I turned it off completely. For the first time in 30 years, I wasn't available to fix my son's problems. And it felt like breathing after being underwater for too long. I kept my phone off for 3 days. 3 days of silence. 3 days of not knowing what was happening in Hawaii. 3 days of fighting every instinct I'd developed over 61 years of putting my family first. It was the hardest thing I'd ever done. On the first day, I almost caved a dozen times. My hand would reach for my phone, my brain supplying 1,000 justifications. What if something happened to the kids? What if this was a real emergency? What if I was making a mistake? But then I'd remember Caleb's face at the airport. That rehearsed explanation. The way he'd walked away without looking back. And I'd put the phone down. I filled those 3 days by doing things I hadn't done in years. I fixed my leaking roof, the one I'd neglected to save money for their trip. I organized my garage. I called old friends I'd lost touch with because I'd been too busy being available for Caleb. Robert called my landline on day 2. I'd forgotten I even had that number listed. You turned your cell off, he said. Not a question. Yeah. Good. How you holding up? I don't know. Some moments I feel strong. Like I finally did the right thing. Other moments I feel like the worst father in the world. You're not, Robert said firmly. The worst father in the world wouldn't have spent $40,000 trying to make memories with his family. The worst father wouldn't have given his son 50 grand for a house. You're not the bad guy here, Benedict. Remember that. Then why do I feel so guilty? Because you're a good person. Good people feel guilty even when they shouldn't. But Caleb? Caleb should feel guilty. And maybe for the first time in his life he actually does. On the 3rd day I turned my phone back on. It took 5 minutes to load all the notifications. Messages, voicemails, missed calls, they filled my screen in an endless scroll. Most were from Caleb. Some were from Serena's phone. A few were from numbers I didn't recognize, probably Serena borrowing other people's phones. The voicemails started angry, then turned desperate, then became something else entirely. Caleb's voice in the most recent one sounded broken. Dad, I don't know if you're listening to these anymore. Maybe you blocked us. Maybe that's what we deserve. But I need you to know, we got home yesterday. Serena paid the fine using her credit card. We maxed it out. We had to cut the trip short, fly home early on the cheapest tickets we could find. The kids cried the whole way. They kept asking where Grandpa was. His voice cracked on that last part. I know what we did was wrong. I know it. Serena knows it too, even if she won't say it. She's barely talking to me. Says this is my fault for not standing up for you over the years. She's right. She's been terrible to you and I let it happen because it was easier than fighting with her. I chose her over you every single time and I told myself it was just keeping the peace. But it wasn't. It was cowardice. I sat down at my kitchen table, phone pressed to my ear. When we were stuck at that airport, when Serena was being questioned and the kids were scared and I had no idea what to do, all I could think was how you would have known exactly what to do. How you always knew what to do. And how I'd spent my whole life taking that for granted. A long pause. I could hear voices in the background, airport announcements. I don't expect you to forgive me. I wouldn't forgive me. But I need you to know that I'm sorry. Really truly sorry. Not because I needed your money. But because I treated the best father I could have asked for like he was nothing. And I can't take that back. The voicemail ended. I sat there staring at my coffee mug for a long time. Part of me, the old part, the part that had spent decades being the fixer, wanted to call him back immediately. Wanted to say it was okay, we'd work through it, family forgives. But another part of me, the part that was just starting to find its voice, knew that would be a mistake. Words were easy. Caleb had always been good with words. He'd apologized before, usually right before asking for something else. This time, if things were really going to change, I needed to see more than words. I needed to see action. So instead of calling him back, I sent a single text message. I got your voicemail. I need time to think. Don't contact me for a while. I'll reach out when I'm ready. His response came back in under a minute. I understand. Take all the time you need. I love you, Dad. I stared at that message. I love you, Dad. When was the last time he'd said that? Not as a throwaway at the end of a phone call, but actually meant it? I couldn't remember. The days turned into weeks. Summer shifted toward fall. I went back to my routines, but they felt different now. Lighter somehow. Like I'd been carrying a weight I didn't realize was there until I'd finally put it down. I started taking morning walks around the neighborhood. Started reading again, something I'd loved before I'd gotten too busy being available for everyone else. I even went to a few movies by myself, something Miranda and I used to do on date nights. Robert convinced me to visit him in Arizona for a week. We played golf badly, drank beer on his patio, and didn't talk about Caleb unless I brought it up first. It was exactly what I needed. When I got back home, there was a letter waiting for me. Not an email or a text. An actual handwritten letter sitting in my mailbox. Caleb's handwriting on the envelope. I made myself a cup of coffee before opening it. Sat down at the kitchen table. Took my time. Inside were 3 pages, front and back, covered in my son's messy scrawl. It started, "Dad, I know you said not to contact you, but I needed to write this down. Not for you to respond. Just so you know what I've been thinking about." The letter went on to detail everything. How he'd let Serena convince him that excluding me from the trip would be more relaxing for everyone. How he'd gone along with it because he was tired of fighting with her. How he'd convinced himself I wouldn't really mind, that I'd understand, that our relationship was strong enough to survive it. But it wasn't about the trip, he wrote. It was about everything. Every time I took your money without thanking you properly. Every time Serena was rude to you and I said nothing. Every time you tried to be part of our lives and I made you feel like an inconvenience. I failed you as a son. And worse, I failed to be the kind of man you raised me to be. He wrote about the aftermath of Hawaii. How he and Serena had barely spoken for weeks after. How she'd finally admitted she'd been jealous of my relationship with him, felt like I was always watching and judging her. How they'd started marriage counseling, were trying to work through their issues. "I'm not telling you this to make excuses," he wrote. "There are no excuses for what we did. I'm telling you because I want you to know I'm trying to change. Not just apologizing but actually changing." The last page made my eyes water. "The kids ask about you constantly. Why doesn't Grandpa come over anymore? Did we make Grandpa mad?" I tried to explain it in a way they could understand, that Grandpa needed some time to himself, that Daddy made some mistakes and Grandpa needs space to feel better. But the truth is they miss you. And I miss you. And I understand if you never want to see us again, but I needed you to know that we're all feeling the hole you left behind. Because you were never the problem, Dad. You were what held us together. And without you, we're falling apart. I set the letter down and walked to my window. Stared out at my front yard, at the garden Miranda had planted years ago that I still maintained. She would know what to do. She always did. "What do I do, Miranda?" I said out loud to the empty room. "Do I forgive him? Do I let him back in? Or is that just setting myself up to get hurt again?" The house stayed quiet, but I could almost hear her voice in my head anyway. "The question isn't whether you forgive him, Benedict. It's whether he's actually changed. Words are easy. Watch what he does." She was right. She always was. I folded the letter back up and put it in my desk drawer. Then I went back to my life. My routines. My morning walks and books and movies. I was done chasing my family. Done sacrificing myself to prove my worth. If Caleb wanted me back in his life, he was going to have to prove he'd earned it. Not with words. With action. 2 months after the Hawaii disaster, my doorbell rang at 8 in the morning on a Saturday. I wasn't expecting anyone. Robert was back in Arizona. My neighbors knew I liked my quiet mornings. I almost didn't answer. But curiosity got the better of me. When I opened the door, Caleb stood on my porch. Alone. He looked different. Thinner. Tired. His hair was longer than he usually kept it, like he'd stopped caring about his appearance. But his eyes were clear. Alert. Different from the glazed-over look he'd had for years, the look of someone going through the motions of life without really being present. "Hi, Dad," he said quietly. I didn't say anything. Just stood there holding the door. "I know you said to give you space. I have been. But can I come in? Just for a few minutes. If you want me to leave after that, I'll leave." Every instinct told me to protect myself. To send him away. To not risk getting hurt again. but I stepped aside and let him in. We sat at the kitchen table. I didn't offer him coffee. Didn't make small talk. Just waited. Caleb pulled out his phone and set it on the table between us. "I'm not here to ask for anything," he started. "I'm not here to make excuses. I just need you to see something." He pulled up his bank account on his phone. Showed me the screen. "Serena and I sold her car. We're down to one vehicle now. We used that money to start paying you back for the house down payment. This is the first installment, $5,000. I'm transferring it to your account right now." I watched as he navigated to his banking app and made the transfer. My phone buzzed a moment later with the confirmation. "It's going to take us years to pay back everything we owe you," he continued. "The house money, the car, all the times you helped us out. But we're going to do it. Not because you asked. Because it's right. You don't have to." "Yes, I do. You spent your whole life teaching me about responsibility and integrity, and I ignored every lesson. This is me finally listening." He put his phone away and looked at me directly. "Serena and I are in counseling. Both marriage counseling and individual. Her therapist helped her realize that she'd been treating you badly because her own father was never there for her. She saw your relationship with me and it brought up a lot of anger and jealousy. That's not an excuse, she knows that. But she's working on it." "That's good," I said, my voice neutral. "I'm glad you're both getting help. She wants to apologize to you herself. When you're ready. No pressure." I nodded but didn't commit to anything. Caleb took a deep breath. "The night we got back from Hawaii, after everything fell apart, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about you standing at that airport. How your face looked when I told you to go home. And I realized I'd become my grandfather. That hit me like a punch to the gut." "What?" "Your dad. The one who walked out on you when you were 10. I'd spent my whole life with a father who never left, who always showed up, who sacrificed everything. And I treated you the way your father treated you. I abandoned you." His voice broke on that last word. "I'm not telling you this to manipulate you or to make you feel sorry for me. I'm telling you because it's the truth. And because I need you to know that I finally understand what you were trying to teach me my whole life. That family isn't about blood or obligation. It's about showing up. It's about respect. It's about choosing each other every single day." We sat in silence for a long moment. "The kids made you something," he finally said, pulling an envelope from his jacket pocket. "I helped them, but it was their idea." Inside were 2 drawings. Crayon on construction paper. The first showed a stick figure man standing next to 2 smaller stick figures on a beach. "We miss you, Grandpa," was written in shaky letters across the top. The second was a drawing of my house with all of us standing in front of it. "Please come back," it said. I had to set them down because my hands were shaking. "They don't understand everything that happened," Caleb said softly. "Just that Grandpa isn't around anymore and they miss you. Emma asked me last week if you died like Grandma did. I had to explain that no, you're alive, but Daddy hurt your feelings really badly and you need time to feel better." "What did she say?" "She said you should come to her school play next month. That seeing her be a tree in the forest scene would make you feel better." Despite everything, I smiled. Emma was 6. Being a tree in the school play was the most important thing in her world right now. "I'm not asking you to forgive us yet," Caleb said. "I'm not asking you to come to Sunday dinners or babysit or go back to how things were. Because how things were was broken. I can see that now." He stood up to leave. "I just needed you to know that we're trying. Really trying. Not to get you back as our problem solver or our bank account. But because you deserve a family that treats you with the respect and love you've always given us." He walked to the door then turned back. "I love you, Dad. And I'm going to prove that to you. Not with words. With time and action and change. However long it takes." After he left, I sat at my kitchen table for over an hour. The drawings were still in front of me. The bank notification was still on my phone. $5,000. It was a drop in the bucket compared to what I'd given them over the years. But it wasn't about the money. It was about what it represented. Accountability. Initiative. Change. For the first time, Caleb hadn't waited for me to tell him what to do. He'd figured it out himself. That night, I did something I hadn't done in months. I pulled out my phone and looked at pictures of my grandchildren. Really looked at them. Emma's gap-toothed smile. Jake's serious little face as he concentrated on building with blocks. They weren't responsible for their parents' mistakes. They were just kids who missed their grandpa. And I missed them too. I wasn't ready to forgive Caleb and Serena completely. Wounds that deep don't heal overnight. But maybe, just maybe, I could start to open the door a crack. Not to let them rush back into my life like nothing happened. But to see if the changes Caleb talked about were real. Because Miranda was right. Words are easy. But I'd just seen action. And action was a start. I picked up my phone and sent Caleb a text. When is Emma's play? His response came back almost immediately. November 15th, 7 p.m. She'll be the best tree you've ever seen. I typed back, I'll be there. Then I added, but we're taking this slow. Real slow. No promises beyond that. Understood. Thank you, Dad. This means everything. I set my phone down and looked at the drawings again. At that crayon version of my house with all of us standing together. Maybe one day we'd get back to that. Or maybe we'd build something new, something healthier, with better boundaries and real respect. Either way, it wouldn't happen overnight. And it wouldn't happen just because I wanted it to. It would happen because everyone involved chose to do the work. Including me. For the first time since that horrible day at the airport, I felt something other than pain or anger. I felt hope. Not the desperate, fragile hope of someone clinging to a fantasy. But the quiet, steady hope of someone who'd finally learned the difference between love and enabling. Between sacrifice and self-erasure. Between forgiving too easily and holding people accountable. Miranda would be proud. I could feel it. And maybe, eventually, I'd be proud of myself too. But first I had a school play to attend. And a granddaughter who was going to be the best tree in the whole damn forest. The school auditorium smelled like old wood and teenage body spray. I sat in the back row, half hidden behind a particularly tall father with a camera, and watched parents file in with their phones ready to record their children's theatrical debuts. I almost didn't come. Changed my mind 3 times that morning. What if this was a mistake? What if seeing Caleb and Serena together made everything come rushing back? What if the kids didn't even want me there anymore? But I'd made a promise. And unlike some people, I kept mine. The lights dimmed. A teacher walked on stage to welcome everyone. Then the curtain opened on a cardboard forest. And there was Emma. Third tree from the left, wearing a brown paper bag trunk and green streamers for leaves. She was completely still, taking her role seriously, until she spotted me in the back row. Her whole face lit up. She started waving so enthusiastically her streamers nearly fell off. "Grandpa!" she shouted, loud enough that half the auditorium turned to look. The teacher on stage gently reminded her that trees don't talk. Emma clapped her hand over her mouth but kept grinning at me. My throat got tight. I waved back. When the play ended, a confusing story about woodland creatures learning to share, I stayed in my seat while other parents rushed forward. I wasn't ready for the confrontation that was coming. Sure enough, Caleb appeared at the end of my row. But he didn't push. Just stood there waiting for permission. I stood up. He looked nervous. "Thank you for coming," he said. "It really means..." "Where are the kids?" I interrupted. "Backstage. They're doing a meet and greet thing with the audience. Emma's going to lose her mind when she sees you." "And Serena?" "She's back there with them. Dad, she really does want to apologize. But if you're not ready, let's just see the kids first." We walked backstage together in silence. The hallway was packed with excited children still in costume and parents trying to take photos. Then I heard Emma's voice. "Grandpa." She came running at me full speed, streamers flying behind her. I barely had time to brace myself before she crashed into my legs. You came. Did you see me? I was a really good tree, right?" I knelt down so I was eye level with her. "You were the best tree I've ever seen. Better than any real tree in any forest." That's what I said. She hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. "I missed you so much, Grandpa. Why did you stop coming over?" Jake appeared behind her, quieter but watching me with those serious eyes. He was 9 now, old enough to understand more than Emma did. "Hi, Grandpa," he said carefully. "Hi, Jake. How's school?" "Fine." He hesitated, then added, "I got an A on my science project. The one about bridges. I used some of the stuff you taught me about weight distribution." My chest ached. "That's great, buddy. I'm proud of you. I wanted to call and tell you, but Dad said you needed space." He looked down at his shoes. "Did we do something wrong?" Before I could answer, Serena appeared. She looked different too. Less makeup. Hair pulled back simply. The designer clothes she used to wear replaced with jeans and a plain sweater. "Hi, Benedict," she said quietly. The kids went silent, sensing the tension. "Emma, Jake," Caleb said, "why don't you go find Mrs. Henderson and get some of those cookies she brought?" "But Grandpa just got here." "We'll be right behind you. Go on." Reluctantly they left. Emma looked back twice like she was afraid I might disappear again. Serena and I stood facing each other in that crowded hallway. She looked like she was gathering courage. "I need to apologize to you," she finally said. Not because Caleb's making me. Because I owe you that. What we did, was cruel. There's no excuse for it. I waited. I'd heard a lot of apologies in my life. Most of them were just words to make the apologizer feel better. I treated you terribly for years, she continued, her voice shaking slightly. I was jealous of your relationship with Caleb. My own father was never there for me, and seeing how close you two were made me angry. Instead of dealing with my own issues, I took it out on you. I made you feel unwelcome in your own son's life. And then Hawaii. She had to stop and compose herself. Planning to leave you at the airport was my idea. Caleb was hesitant, but I pushed it. I convinced him you'd be fine, that you'd understand, that we deserved a vacation without your old energy around. She flinched saying those words. I was horrible. And I'm not asking you to forgive me. I just need you to know that I'm sorry. Truly sorry. The thing about apologies is you can tell when they're real. When someone's actually sitting with their shame instead of just trying to escape it. This felt real. I'm in therapy, she added. Working through my issues with my father. Learning how to be a better person. A better wife. A better mother. And learning what it means to respect the people who've only ever tried to help me. I looked at Caleb. He wasn't jumping in to defend her or smooth things over. He was just standing there, letting her own her mistakes. The kids miss you, Serena said. We all do. But especially them. Emma cries sometimes because she doesn't understand why Grandpa doesn't come over anymore. And Jake. Jake told me last week that he wishes he could be like you when he grows up. Strong and good and always there for people. That hit me hard. I understand if you can't forgive us, she finished. But please don't punish the kids for our mistakes. They love you. They need you. Before I could respond, Emma came running back, cookie crumbs on her face. Grandpa, are you coming to Thanksgiving? Please say yes. Mom's making turkey and I get to help make the pie. 4 pairs of eyes looked at me. Waiting. Thanksgiving was 2 weeks away. 2 weeks wasn't enough time to heal years of hurt. But those 2 weeks weren't for Caleb or Serena. They were for Emma, who'd been the best tree in the school play. And for Jake, who wanted to be like me when he grew up. I'll come for Thanksgiving, I said. But we need to set some ground rules first. Anything, Caleb said immediately. Not here. Not now. We'll talk this week. Just us. He nodded. Whatever you need, Dad. Emma threw her arms around me again. This is the best day ever. Jake joined the hug, quieter but just as tight. Over their heads, I looked at Caleb and Serena. They were watching their children hold on to me like I was the most important person in the world. Maybe I was. But that didn't mean things could go back to how they were. We had a long road ahead. Rules to set. Boundaries to establish. Trust to rebuild brick by brick. But as Emma chattered about pie recipes and Jake showed me a drawing he'd made of the bridge project, I realized something. I wasn't doing this because they deserved it. I was doing it because those kids deserved a grandfather who showed up. Even when it was hard. Even when it hurt. Because that's what real family does. Not the fantasy version I'd been chasing for years. The real version. Messy and complicated and full of hard conversations. But worth fighting for. The Tuesday before Thanksgiving, Caleb came over for the conversation I'd demanded. No Serena. No kids. Just us. He sat across from me at the kitchen table, the same table where I'd read his letter months ago. Where I'd cried after they left me at the airport. Where I'd made the decision to finally choose myself. I've been thinking about what needs to change, I said, pulling out a piece of paper. I'd actually written things down. If we're going to rebuild this, we're doing it differently. I agree. Whatever you need. First, the money. I appreciate you starting to pay me back, but I want to be clear. I'm not your bank anymore. No more emergency loans. No more just this once situations. You're adults with your own family. You need to handle your own financial problems. Caleb nodded, looking uncomfortable but not defensive. You're right. We've been working with a financial counselor. Making a budget. Learning to live within our means. It's been hard, but we should have been doing it all along. Second, respect. I won't tolerate Serena's attitude anymore. I don't care what issues she has with her father. That's her work to do, not mine to suffer for. If she's rude to me, I leave. No arguments, no second chances in the moment. I'm done swallowing disrespect for the sake of keeping the peace. Understood. And she knows that too. She's really working on it, Dad. I know it's hard to believe, but she's different. We'll see. Third, boundaries. I love my grandkids, but I'm not free childcare. If you need a babysitter, you ask in advance. Politely. And if I say no, you respect that without guilt-tripping me. Done. Fourth, and this is the big one, I need you to actually be my son, not just when you need something. Call me because you want to talk. Visit because you want to see me. Show up to my life the way you expect me to show up to yours. Caleb's eyes got watery. You're right. I've been a terrible son. I treated you like a resource instead of a person. Instead of my dad. I enabled it, I admitted. I taught you that my love was about what I could give you instead of who I am. I never set boundaries because I was so desperate to be needed. To be the father I never had. But that's not healthy for either of us. So what do? We start over. Build something real this time. No more transactions disguised as relationship. No more me sacrificing everything to prove I love you. Real family doesn't work that way. Caleb was quiet for a long moment. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out an old photograph. He slid it across the table. It was from when he was maybe 7 years old. We were at a construction site, one of my projects. He was wearing a toy hard hat I'd bought him and holding a hammer almost as big as he was. Both of us were smiling at the camera. I found this last month when I was cleaning out some boxes, he said. I remembered that day. You let me help you even though I was probably getting in the way. You were so patient, showing me how to hammer nails, explaining how buildings go together. I thought you were the coolest dad in the world. You were definitely in the way, I said, but I was smiling. When did I stop seeing you like that? When did I start seeing you as an obligation instead of as dad? I don't know. Probably gradually. Life gets busy. People take each other for granted. No. His voice was firm. That's too easy. I made choices. I chose Serena's comfort over your dignity. I chose asking for money over having real conversations. I chose convenience over connection. Those were my choices and they were wrong. He looked at the photo again. I want my kids to look at me the way I'm looking at you in this picture. Like I'm their hero. But how can they when I haven't honored my own hero? When I threw away the example you set for me? You can start now, I said quietly. It's not too late to be the man I raised you to be. But you have to actually do it. Not just feel bad about not doing it. I will. I am. I know you need to see it to believe it, but I'm going to prove it to you. However long it takes. We sat in silence for a while. Then Caleb asked, Can I tell you about what happened in Hawaii? The real story? I nodded. After we left you at the airport, I felt sick. Literally nauseous. Serena kept saying it was fine, that you'd get over it, that we deserved a vacation without complications. But watching the kids board the plane, knowing what we'd done, I felt like the worst person alive. Good, I said bluntly. The first day was tense. Serena and I kept snapping at each other. The kids could tell something was wrong. Then on day 2, Serena went shopping at this market. She bought jewelry without thinking about customs declarations. When we tried to fly home, they stopped her. Said the pieces were worth way more than the duty-free limit. How much? The jewelry was valued at $30,000. She thought she was getting a deal at $5,000. Turns out they were real gemstones. The customs officer said she either had to pay $15,000 as a guarantee while they investigated, or they'd detain her for possible smuggling. I whistled low. That's serious. It was terrifying. We'd already spent most of our cash on the trip. Our credit cards were maxed. We had no one to call except you. And you weren't answering. Because you'd abandoned me at an airport. I know. Believe me, I know. Every time your voicemail picked up, I heard your voice telling me to go home and I wanted to die. The kids were crying. Serena was panicking. And all I could think was that this was karma. This was the universe showing me what it felt like to be abandoned when you needed help the most. What did you do? Serena maxed out her last credit card, paying the guarantee. We had to change our flights to the cheapest ones we could find, which meant an overnight layover in Los Angeles, sleeping in the airport. The kids were miserable. We barely had money for food. It was the worst week of my life. And you learned what exactly? That you'd been my safety net my entire life. And that I'd mistaken that safety for weakness. I thought you'd always be there because you were desperate for my approval. But really you were there because you loved me. And I never appreciated the difference until you weren't there anymore. He wiped his eyes roughly. When we got home, Serena and I had the biggest fight of our marriage. She blamed me for not standing up to you over the years, for letting you be too involved in our lives. I blamed her for her attitude toward you, for pushing the airport plan. We both blamed each other for the Hawaii disaster. We almost separated. That shocked me. I didn't know it got that bad. It did. We were sleeping in separate rooms. Barely speaking. Then one night, Jake came into my room and asked why I wasn't acting like Grandpa Benedict anymore. He said you always treated Grandma Miranda with respect even when you disagreed. He said I should try being more like you. Smart kid. Too smart. He saw right through me. That's when Serena and I finally had a real conversation. Not about you but about us. About what we wanted our marriage to be. What we wanted to teach our kids. And we both realized we'd been terrible, to you, to each other, to ourselves. So you got counseling. We did. Individual and couples. It's helping. We're learning to communicate better. To respect each other. And to understand that how we treat the people around us is how we teach our children to treat people. He looked me straight in the eye. I don't want my kids to grow up thinking it's okay to use people and throw them away. I don't want them to learn that love is conditional on what someone can do for you. I want them to learn what you tried to teach me, that family is about showing up. About sacrifice that comes from love, not obligation. About respect. Then show them, I said. Don't just tell them. Show them by how you treat me from now on. By how you treat Serena. By how you handle problems without expecting someone else to fix them. I will. We both will. I looked at the photo again. That little boy with the toy hard hat who thought his dad was the coolest person in the world. He was still in there somewhere. The good kid I'd raised. He'd just gotten lost for a while. Maybe we both had. Okay, I said finally. Here's what's going to happen. I'm coming to Thanksgiving. But I'm staying 2 hours, not all day. I'm not ready for all day yet. That's fair. And we're going to have family dinners. Once a month to start. You host 1 month, I host the next. Everyone shows up, everyone participates. We rebuild this relationship through consistency, not grand gestures. Yes, absolutely. And Caleb? I waited until he looked at me. If you ever betray my trust like that again, I'm done. Not just for a while. Done. I love you, but I love myself too. And I'm too old to keep teaching people how to treat me. Understand? I understand. And it won't happen again. I swear on Mom's memory. That meant something. He knew how much Miranda meant to me. All right then. I stood up and held out my hand. He looked at it, then stood and pulled me into a hug instead. I love you, Dad. Thank you for giving me another chance. I love you too, I said into his shoulder. But you're earning this chance. Remember that. I will. Every single day. After he left, I sat at my kitchen table feeling something I hadn't felt in months. Not the complete healing kind. The fragile, beginning kind. The kind that says maybe, just maybe, things could actually get better. But I also felt something else. Strength. The strength that comes from finally knowing your worth. From setting boundaries and keeping them. From refusing to accept less than you deserve. I'd spent 61 years believing that love meant sacrifice without limit. That being a good father meant erasing yourself for your children's comfort. But that wasn't love. That was fear. Fear of being abandoned like my father abandoned me. Fear of being alone. Fear of being seen as anything less than essential. Real love, the healthy kind, had boundaries. Had mutual respect. Had give and take instead of just give and give until there's nothing left. Miranda tried to tell me that for years. I just wasn't ready to hear it. But I was ready now. And Thanksgiving was going to be the first test of whether my family was ready too. Thanksgiving arrived cold and clear. I woke up nervous, changed my outfit 3 times, and showed up at Caleb's house at exactly 2 o'clock with a store-bought pie. Not homemade, I wasn't ready to put that much effort in yet. Serena answered the door. She'd cooked, I could smell turkey and herbs and something sweet baking. She looked nervous too. Benedict, thank you for coming. Please come in. Thank you for having me. We were both painfully polite. Like strangers at a business meeting. The kids came running. Emma crashed into me with her usual enthusiasm while Jake hung back but smiled genuinely. Grandpa, I helped make the pie. Well, Mom did most of it, but I got to mix the filling and it got all over my shirt, but Mom said that's okay because that's what aprons are for, except I forgot to wear mine. Sounds like you were a very helpful baker, I said, ruffling her hair. Do you want to see my room? Emma asked. I reorganized all my stuffed animals by size and color and... Later, Caleb said, appearing from the kitchen. Let Grandpa get settled first. Hi, Dad. Hi, son. The dinner was awkward at first. Everyone was trying too hard. Serena asked about my health 3 times. Caleb kept jumping up to refill water glasses that were still full. The kids kept looking between all of us like they were waiting for someone to explode. Finally, Jake said, Is everyone going to be weird all day? Because it's kind of uncomfortable. Emma gasped. Jake, you can't say that. Why not? It's true. Everyone's acting like we're in a commercial or something. Caleb opened his mouth to scold him, but I laughed. Really laughed for the first time in months in that house. You're right, Jake. We are being weird. How about we all just relax and eat this food before it gets cold? The tension broke a little. We started actually talking instead of performing. Emma told me about her new obsession with horses. Jake explained his latest video game in detail that I mostly didn't understand but pretended to follow. Serena talked about going back to school part-time for nursing. Caleb mentioned getting a promotion at work. Regular family conversation. Nothing deep. Nothing heavy. Just normal. After dinner, while Serena and Caleb cleaned up, I sat in the living room with the kids. Emma showed me her stuffed animal organization system. Jake taught me the basics of his video game. Simple moments. The kind I'd missed. When it was time to leave, exactly 2 hours like I'd said, Emma's face fell. Already? But you just got here. I'll see you again soon, sweetheart. I promise. When? Tomorrow? Not tomorrow. But soon. Caleb walked me to my car. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and pink. Thank you for coming, he said. I know it wasn't easy. It was harder than I expected, I admitted. Being in this house again. Pretending everything's fine when it's not. Is it going to get easier? I don't know. Time will tell. He nodded, accepting that uncertainty. The old Caleb would have pushed for reassurance, for me to say everything was forgiven. This Caleb just stood there in the cold and accepted reality. Same time next month? He asked. Dinner at your place? We'll see. I'll let you know. Driving home, I felt exhausted. Emotional hangovers are real and I had a bad one. But underneath the exhaustion was something else. Something that felt like progress. We'd had a family dinner without a crisis. Without someone asking for money or help or anything except my presence. That was new. Over the next few weeks, small things started changing. Caleb called me twice just to talk. Not about problems or favors, just to check in. Asked about my life. Told me about his day. Normal parent-child stuff that we'd somehow never done. Serena sent me a text apologizing for being cold at Thanksgiving. Said she was still working on feeling comfortable around me, but she was trying. I appreciated the honesty. The kids FaceTimed me with Caleb's help. Emma showed me her lost tooth. Jake showed me his improved science grade. These weren't grand gestures. They were small, consistent efforts. And consistency meant more than any big apology ever could. December came. I hosted the monthly dinner like we'd agreed. I made pot roast, Miranda's old recipe. The kids helped me set the table. Serena brought a salad and actually complimented my cooking. Caleb looked around my house like he was seeing it for the first time. When's the last time I was here? He asked quietly. Your mother's funeral, I said. He flinched. That was 5 years ago. Yes, it was. I'm sorry, Dad. I should have visited more. Should have checked on you after Mom died instead of just expecting you to always come to us. Yes, you should have. But you're here now. After they left that night, I cleaned up the kitchen and looked at the photos on my fridge. New ones now from Thanksgiving. Emma covered in pie filling. Jake seriously studying the turkey like it was a science experiment. One of all of us together that Serena had insisted on taking. We looked like a family. Not a perfect one, but a real one. My phone rang. Robert checking in like he did every week now. How'd dinner go? He asked. Good. Really good, actually. They're trying, Rob. Actually trying. And you? How are you doing with all this? I thought about it. Really thought about it. I'm okay. Some days are harder than others. Sometimes I remember the airport and I get angry all over again. But then I see Jake's face when he shows me something he's proud of, or I hear Emma's laugh, and I remember why I'm giving them this chance. Just make sure you're not falling back into old patterns, Robert warned. Don't let them use your love for those kids to manipulate you. I won't. I'm different now. Stronger. I know my worth. Good. Because you deserve better than how they treated you. I know. And I think they're finally starting to understand that too. After we hung up, I sat in my quiet house and felt grateful. Not for the pain of the last year, I wouldn't wish that on anyone. But for what it taught me. That loving someone doesn't mean accepting abuse. That family is what you build, not just what you're born into. That respect is earned through action, not demanded through guilt. That sometimes the kindest thing you can do is refuse to enable someone's worst behavior. Even when that someone is your own child. My phone buzzed with a text from Caleb. A photo of the kids in their pajamas holding a sign they'd made. We love you, Grandpa. Thank you for not giving up on us. I stared at that photo for a long time. Then I texted back. I love you all too. See you next month. Not, I forgive you. Not, everything's fine now. Just, see you next month. Because healing isn't a moment. It's a process. And we were still in the middle of it. But we were moving forward. Together. And that was enough for now. Christmas came with complications. Caleb called 3 weeks before, nervous. Dad, I wanted to ask if you'd spend Christmas with us. Not just dinner, the whole day. Morning through evening. Like we used to when Mom was alive. Everything in me wanted to say yes. To rush back into tradition and pretend the past year hadn't happened. But I'd learned something important about boundaries. I'm not ready for that yet, I said honestly. But I'll come for Christmas dinner. Same 2-hour window we've been doing. I could hear disappointment in his voice. Okay. I understand. Caleb, we're building something new here. That takes time. You can't rush it just because it's a holiday. You're right. The kids were hoping. The kids will have me for dinner. That's more than they had a few months ago. He agreed, but I could tell he was hurt. Good. Not because I wanted to hurt him, but because he needed to understand that actions have long-term consequences. You don't get to destroy someone's trust and have it fully restored in a few months, no matter how hard you try. Christmas morning, I woke up alone in my house. Made coffee, called Robert, watched some TV. My phone rang constantly, Emma and Jake calling to tell me about their presents, Caleb checking what time I'd arrive, even Serena sending a text wishing me a Merry Christmas. It felt different from last year. Last year, the loneliness had been suffocating, like drowning in an empty house. This year, the solitude felt peaceful. Chosen. I was alone but not abandoned. There was a big difference. I arrived at their house at 3 o'clock with presents for the kids. Nothing extravagant. I'd learned my lesson about trying to buy love. Just thoughtful gifts that showed I'd been paying attention. A book series Emma had mentioned for her, a model kit for Jake that related to his bridge project. The house was warm and smelled like ham and cinnamon. A real tree stood in the corner, decorated with ornaments that included some I recognized from when Caleb was a kid. That touched me more than I expected. This time dinner felt more natural. Less performance, more genuine. We talked about memories of past Christmases, told stories about Miranda that made us laugh instead of cry. Serena shared some of her own family traditions and I listened without judgment. When the 2 hours were up, I stood to leave. Emma protested like always, but with less desperation. She was learning that Grandpa leaving didn't mean Grandpa was gone forever. I'll see you next week for New Year's, I promised. Can we watch the ball drop together? She asked. I looked at Caleb. He raised his eyebrows, leaving it up to me. That would be nice, I said. If it's okay with your parents. Emma squealed and hugged me. Over her head, I saw Caleb mouth, thank you. New Year's Eve I came back. This time, Caleb had invited Robert too, who'd flown in from Arizona. Having him there changed the dynamic in a good way. It wasn't just me and Caleb's family navigating our fragile new relationship. It was a real celebration with friends and family. Robert and I told construction stories that made the kids laugh. Serena was more relaxed around me with someone else there to dilute the tension. Caleb looked lighter, younger somehow. At midnight, we all counted down together. When the ball dropped, Emma grabbed my hand. Make a wish, Grandpa. I looked around the room. At my grandchildren. At my son who was genuinely trying. At his wife who was doing the work. At my old friend who'd supported me through the darkest time. I don't need to wish, I told Emma. I have everything I need right here. Later, after the kids were in bed and the adults sat around the kitchen table with coffee, Robert said, You've built something good here, Benedict. Different from before, but good. We're trying, Caleb said. Still have a long way to go. Maybe, I said. But we're moving in the right direction. Serena spoke up, her voice quiet. Benedict, I know we've apologized before, but I need to say something. Not just about Hawaii, but about everything. I made you feel unwelcome in your own son's life. I made you feel like your presence was a burden instead of a gift. And I'm ashamed of that. Truly ashamed. She wasn't crying, wasn't dramatic. Just honest. My therapist asked me what I would want if my own children treated me the way I treated you. And I couldn't answer because the thought was too painful. That's when I realized what I'd done. What we'd both done. She looked at Caleb, who nodded. We're committed to being better, she continued. Not just saying it, but doing it. Every day. Because you deserve that. And because our children deserve to see what real family looks like. Thank you, I said simply. Because sometimes that's all you can say. Robert raised his coffee cup. To new beginnings. And to families that do the hard work. We all clinked cups. January brought a surprise. Caleb showed up at my door on a Saturday morning with a tool belt and work gloves. What's this? I asked. I noticed your deck needs some repairs. And that gutter is coming loose. Thought maybe, if you wanted, we could work on it together? Like we used to. I looked at him. At the son who'd forgotten how to show up for me, now standing on my porch offering his time and effort. I'd like that, I said. We spent the day working side by side. Didn't talk much about deep things. Just worked the way we had when he was a kid with a toy hard hat. But the silence wasn't awkward. It was comfortable. Familiar. Jake showed up around noon with sandwiches from Serena. Can I help? He asked. So we taught him the basics. How to measure twice and cut once. How to check if something's level. How to work safely with tools. Jake absorbed it all, asking questions, getting his hands dirty. This is cool, he said. Can we do this again sometime? Anytime you want, I told him. Your dad and I built a lot of things together over the years. Be nice to start that tradition with you. The look on Caleb's face told me he understood the significance of that statement. This wasn't just about fixing my deck. It was about building something new. About passing down more than just skills, passing down values, presence, connection. February brought another payment from Caleb. $5,000 right on schedule. He'd set up automatic transfers, was paying me back systematically without being asked. March brought family dinner at their house. April brought it to mine. A rhythm was developing. Consistent, reliable, healthy. In May, something unexpected happened. Serena called me. Not Caleb, but Serena. Alone. Benedict, I need advice. But I want you to know I'm not asking you to fix anything. Just advice. As someone who's lived longer and knows things I don't. She was having problems with her own mother, who'd suddenly reached out after years of no contact. Wanted back in Serena's life, wanted to meet the grandchildren she'd never bothered with before. What should I do? Serena asked. Part of me wants to tell her to go to hell. But another part wonders if I'd be doing to her what I did to you, cutting someone off without giving them a chance to change. What does your therapist say? That it's complicated. That I need to protect myself but also consider whether I'd regret not trying. But you've lived this from both sides. You know what it's like to be shut out and you've had to decide whether to let people back in. What would you do? I thought carefully before answering. I'd ask myself one question. Is she actually changing or does she just want something? With you and Caleb I saw real change. Consistent effort. Therapy. Action, not just words. Has your mother done any of that? No, Serena admitted. She just showed up and expected everything to be fine. Then there's your answer. You don't owe anyone access to your life just because they're family. Family is earned, not entitled. If she wants a relationship, she needs to do the work first. Thank you, Serena said, and I could hear relief in her voice. That helps. A lot. After we hung up, I sat there feeling something unexpected. Serena had come to me not as an ATM, not out of obligation, but because she valued my perspective. She trusted my judgment. That meant something. June brought Emma's 7th birthday. I was invited to the whole party this time, not just a portion of it. Watched her blow out candles, open presents, play with friends in the backyard. Caleb pulled me aside at one point. Look at this, Dad. He showed me his phone. A savings account for the kids' college fund. We're putting away money every month now. Not much, but something. We want to do for them what you did for me. But we want to do it right this time. Teach them to be grateful, not entitled. That's good, I said. Really good. I learned from the best. Eventually. In July, Robert came to visit again. We had a big family barbecue. My house filled with laughter and kids running around and adults talking over each other. At one point, I looked around and realized this was what I'd wanted all along. Not perfection. Not people who needed me. Just people who chose to be there. Who showed up because they wanted to, not because they wanted something. That night, after everyone left and I was cleaning up paper plates, my phone rang. Unknown number. Mr. Harrow? This is Detective Chen with the police department. I'm calling about a report we received regarding an incident last year at the airport. Do you have a moment? My heart started pounding. What kind of incident? We received information that you were fraudulently excluded from a trip you'd paid for. The complainant suggested it might constitute theft or fraud. Can you tell me about what happened? I sat down heavily. Someone had reported Caleb and Serena. Probably someone who'd witnessed the airport scene, or maybe someone they'd told who was horrified. Who filed this report? I asked. I can't disclose that. But I do need to know if you want to press charges. If you paid for tickets that were never purchased with intent to defraud you, that could be criminal. I thought about Caleb. About how far we'd come. About the work he was doing, the man he was becoming. No, I said firmly. I don't want to press charges. It was a family matter. We've resolved it. Are you sure? Financial elder abuse is serious. We take these cases very seriously. I appreciate that. But I'm sure. What happened was wrong, but it's been handled within the family. After some more questions and confirming I wasn't being coerced, the detective agreed to close the case. I sat in my quiet house for a long time after that call. I could have pressed charges. Could have made them pay legally for what they did. Part of me, the hurt, angry part, wanted to. But that would have destroyed everything we'd rebuilt. And more importantly, it would have been about punishment, not healing. I'd already done the hard work of holding them accountable. They were paying me back, showing up consistently, changing their behavior. That was the accountability that mattered. Revenge might have felt good for a moment. But what I had now, a real relationship with real boundaries, felt better. I never told Caleb about that call. It wasn't necessary. We were moving forward, not dwelling in the past. August brought another milestone. Caleb asked if I wanted to go fishing with him and Jake. Just the three of us, overnight camping trip. Are you sure? I asked. That's a big step. I'm sure. If you are. I looked at Jake, who was practically bouncing with excitement. Please, Grandpa? Dad's teaching me how to fish, but he says you're way better at it. So we went. Spent 2 days in the woods by a lake, sleeping in tents, cooking over a fire, teaching Jake the patience of fishing. On the second night after Jake had gone to sleep, Caleb and I sat by the fire. I've been thinking, he said. About Mom. About how she'd feel about everything that's happened. What do you think she'd say? Probably that she told me so. He laughed softly. She used to warn me about taking you for granted. Said one day I'd realize what I had, and I'd better hope it wasn't too late. She was a smart woman. She was. And she'd be proud of you, Dad. For having the strength to walk away. For teaching me the lesson I needed to learn even though it was hard. I think she'd be proud of you too. For doing the work to change. I hope so. He stared into the fire. I want to be the kind of man she believed I could be. The kind of father you were to me. The kind of husband who deserves a second chance. You're getting there. One day at a time. We sat in comfortable silence, listening to the fire crackle and the lake water lap against the shore. Dad. Caleb said after a while. I love you. And I'm grateful you didn't give up on me completely. Even when I deserved it. I love you too, son. But I didn't do it for you. I did it for me. And for those kids who deserve a grandfather. And because your mother would have kicked my ass if I let our family fall apart without at least trying to save it. He laughed, real laughter that echoed across the water. The next morning, Jake caught his first fish. A small bass, nothing impressive, but you'd have thought he'd caught a whale. Caleb and I taught him how to clean it and we cooked it for breakfast. This is the best fish I've ever eaten. Jake declared. That's because you caught it yourself, I told him. Things you work for always taste better. Driving home, Jake fell asleep in the back seat. Caleb glanced at him in the rearview mirror. Thank you, he said quietly, for giving me another chance to get this right. To be the father and son I should have been all along. You're welcome. But remember, this isn't about second chances. This is about first times. First time we're building a relationship based on respect. First time I'm setting real boundaries. First time you're showing up without expecting something in return. We're not going back to how things were. We're building something new. Something better, Caleb agreed. Something sustainable, I corrected. Because I'm not doing this if it means sacrificing myself again. The moment this relationship becomes unhealthy, I walk. And I won't feel guilty about it. I understand. And I won't give you a reason to walk. Looking out the window at the passing trees, I realized I believed him. Not blindly the way I used to, but carefully based on months of evidence. Trust wasn't given. It was earned. And Caleb was earning it back, one fishing trip, one family dinner, one payment, one consistent action at a time. We weren't perfect. We still had awkward moments, difficult conversations, days when old wounds ached. But we were real. Honest. Trying. And that was worth more than any fantasy I'd been chasing before. September arrived with leaves turning gold and the kind of crisp air that makes you think about new beginnings even though it's technically the season of endings. I was in my garage working on a project, building a toy chest for Emma's birthday, when Caleb's car pulled up. He got out alone, which was unusual. The kids were usually with him on Saturday mornings. Hey Dad. Got a minute? Sure. I set down my tools and wiped sawdust off my hands. We sat on my porch with coffee the way we'd started doing occasionally. Just talking. No agenda, no asks, just conversation. I've been thinking about the past year, Caleb said. About how much has changed. And I wanted to tell you something. Okay. You saved my life. Not by giving me money or fixing my problems. By refusing to. By stepping back and letting me fall. That was the greatest gift you ever gave me, even though I didn't see it at the time. I didn't respond right away. Just sipped my coffee and let him continue. If you'd sent that money in Hawaii, if you'd rushed in to save us like you always did, I never would have learned. I'd have kept using you, kept taking you for granted, kept teaching my kids that love means having someone to exploit. You broke that cycle by refusing to participate in it anymore. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, I admitted. Harder than losing your mother in some ways. Because with her, I had no choice. With you, I chose to let go. Why? Why did you finally draw the line? I thought about it. Really thought about what had changed. Because I realized I was teaching you that I had no value beyond what I could provide. And worse, I was teaching myself the same thing. Your mother used to tell me I was enough just by being me. Not by fixing things or providing money or sacrificing myself. Just by being Benedict. After she died, I forgot that. Forgot I was worth more than what I could give. You are worth more. So much more. I know that now. But I had to learn it the hard way. We both did. Caleb set down his coffee cup. There's something else I need to tell you. Serena and I finished paying you back. The full $50,000 for the house. It took everything we had in savings and we're still working on the other amounts, but we wanted to clear that debt. He handed me an envelope. Inside was a cashier's check for the remaining balance, plus interest I'd never asked for. You didn't have to include interest. Yes, I did. It's what's right. You sacrificed your retirement savings for us. The least we can do is pay you back properly. I looked at that check and felt something shift. This wasn't about the money, though I'd be lying if I said having my savings restored didn't help. It was about what the gesture represented. Caleb taking responsibility. Making things right without being asked. Following through on his promises even when it was hard. Thank you, I said simply. Thank you for not giving up on me. Even when I deserved it. We sat in silence for a bit, watching the leaves fall in my front yard. You know what's funny? Caleb said. I used to think you needed us. That we were doing you a favor by letting you be part of our lives. That your help was you trying to buy our love because you were lonely. And now I realize we needed you. That you were part of our lives despite how we treated you, not because of it. That your help came from love, not desperation. And that we're the ones who should have been grateful for every single day we had with you. An SUV pulled up to the curb. Serena got out with the kids, all of them carrying grocery bags. Surprise. Emma yelled. We're making lunch for you. I looked at Caleb, confused. Family project, he explained. The kids wanted to do something nice for you. So we're cooking. Well, attempting to cook. Fair warning, it might be terrible. They invaded my kitchen like a small, chaotic army. Emma insisted on being head chef despite being 7. Jake took his role as sous chef very seriously, reading recipes with intense concentration. Serena and Caleb worked together seamlessly, laughing when Emma gave them contradictory instructions. I sat at my kitchen table watching them. My family. Not the fantasy version I'd tried to force into existence through sacrifice and money, but the real version. Messy and imperfect and still working through issues. But real. And there by choice. Lunch was indeed terrible. Pasta overcooked to mush, sauce too salty, garlic bread somehow both burnt and soggy. We ate it anyway, laughing about our culinary disaster. I think Grandpa should stick to building things, Jake said solemnly. And we should stick to ordering pizza. Agreed, I said, ruffling his hair. After lunch, while the kids played in the backyard and Caleb cleaned up, Serena pulled me aside. Benedict, I wanted to ask you something. And please feel free to say no. Okay. My mother reached out again. She's been in therapy working on herself. She wants to meet, to apologize properly. And I was thinking, would you be willing to be there? Your presence would help me feel stronger. And honestly, I think she could learn something from how you handled our betrayal with grace. This was new territory. Serena asking for my support not as an obligation, but as someone she trusted. When? Next week. Coffee shop, public place. Just an hour. I'll be there. Her eyes filled with tears. Thank you. For everything. For showing me what real forgiveness looks like. For teaching me that boundaries and love aren't opposites. They work together. You're welcome. And Serena? I'm proud of you. For doing the work. for being honest about your struggles. That takes real courage. She hugged me then. Not the stiff, obligatory hugs from before. A real one. The next week, I sat in a coffee shop while Serena faced her mother. Didn't participate in the conversation, just sat at a nearby table reading a book, a silent presence of support. I watched Serena set clear boundaries with her mother. Watched her demand accountability before offering forgiveness. Watched her refuse to rush back into relationship without seeing real change. She'd learned well. When it was over, we walked to our cars together. "How do you feel?" I asked. "Strong. Scared. But mostly strong. She wants to start therapy together. Family counseling like Caleb and I did." "Are you going to do it?" "I think so. But slowly. With boundaries. The way you taught me." October brought Emma's 8th birthday party. The toy chest I'd built was a hit. November brought another Thanksgiving, this time with me staying the whole day. Not because I was pressured, but because I wanted to. Because I was ready. December brought Christmas, and this time I spent Christmas Eve and Christmas Day with them. Slept in their guest room, woke up to kids jumping on my bed, drank too much coffee, and helped assemble toys that came with instructions in 3 languages. It felt right. Natural. Like we'd finally found our rhythm. On New Year's Eve, we were back at my house for the celebration. Robert flew in again, bringing a woman he'd been dating, Clara, a retired teacher with a quick laugh. The house was full of people, noise, life. At midnight, after the ball dropped and everyone cheered, I found myself on my back porch looking at the stars. Caleb joined me. "You okay, Dad?" "More than okay. Just thinking. About your mother. How she'd love seeing this. Seeing you become the man she always knew you could be. Seeing our family healed and real instead of broken and pretending. I wish she was here." "Me too. But I think she is, in a way. In the lessons she taught us. In the love she planted that finally grew into something healthy." We stood in comfortable silence. "Dad, I have something to tell you. Serena's pregnant. We're having another baby. And this time, we want to name her Miranda. After Mom. If that's okay with you." My eyes filled with tears. "She'd be honored." "I'm honored. She changed our lives even after she was gone. By teaching you to stand up for yourself. By teaching me what real love looks like through your example. We want to remember that. To pass that on." I pulled my son into a hug, something we did easily now. Naturally. "I'm proud of you," I said. "Your mother would be too." "I'm proud of you too, Dad. For having the strength to do what was hard instead of what was easy. For loving yourself enough to demand better. For showing me that real men set boundaries and keep them." We went back inside to the party. To family and friends and laughter. To a life rebuilt on foundations of respect instead of obligation. Later, after everyone had left and I was alone in my house, I pulled out the postcard. The one from Hawaii that had started everything. "One day we'll bring the whole family here." We never did make it to Hawaii together. But we built something better right here. Something real. I turned the postcard over and wrote on it with a marker. Family isn't about perfect vacations or grand gestures. It's about showing up, setting boundaries, demanding respect, and choosing each other every single day. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. I put it back in my drawer, next to Miranda's old jewelry box and the letters Caleb had written. My phone buzzed. A text from Caleb. "Thank you for not giving up on us. Love you, Dad." I texted back. "Thank you for earning your way back. Love you too, son." And I meant it. Both parts. The love and the earning. Because that's what real family does. They mess up, they own it, they do the work to change, and they show up consistently even when it's uncomfortable. Not the fairy tale I'd been chasing for years. But something better. Something real. So that's my story. The story of how I spent $40,000 on a family vacation only to be abandoned at the airport. How I had 72 missed calls the next day begging for help I refused to give. How I finally learned that loving someone doesn't mean erasing yourself for them. If you're watching this and you're in a situation where family is taking advantage of you, where your love is being exploited, where you're sacrificing yourself to prove your worth, please hear this. You are valuable just for being you. Not for what you can provide or fix or give. Just for being you. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is step back and let people face the consequences of their actions. Not as punishment but as teaching. As accountability. It's hard. It's painful. But it's necessary. My family isn't perfect now. We still have hard days. But we're real. We're honest. We have boundaries and respect and genuine love instead of transaction disguised as relationship. That's worth more than any vacation could ever be. If you found this story meaningful, Please subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss future stories. Share your own experiences in the comments. Your story might inspire someone else who's struggling with similar situations. And remember, healing is possible, but it requires courage from everyone involved. Thank you for listening. And remember, never let love blind you to the point where you forget your own worth. Until next time.